Hey. Welcome to the first ever Brute Facts podcast. I got a great show tonight. It's going to be Adam Coleman with Tru-ID Apologetics. He'll be joining me here in a second. I just wanted to say thanks for everybody that's here. I hope you enjoy the show, and maybe we'll get some pretty good guests and grow this thing pretty big. So sit tight, and I will bring him in. We had a few technical difficulties, so hopefully I can hear him when he comes on. I don't know. We'll see. How you doing, Adam?
Hey, doing good, man. How you feeling?
That's awesome. I can hear you now. I don't know why in the world I couldn't hear you back there.
Yeah, as soon as we're live, I can hear and see you and everything.
That's great. Yep. It's always a good day when somebody can see my pretty beard. Man, I'm telling you, it took a long time to get it though. But man, look at that hair, man. That makes me so jealous. I just wish
I'll change the hair for the beard, man. I've been working on something for a while, and I can't get it right.
Oh man, I hear you. I feel you.
Are you hearing an echo with me, or I'm hearing something echo?
No, can you hear do you hear an echo?
Not from you. I hear one from me, but
oh, okay. All right. Now you sound good to me. So so how you been? I don't think we've never talked face to face. We just kind of skirted around the apologetic circle together and hung out with the same people and chat a little here, chat a little there. I am a pretty good fan of a pretty big fan of your work. So
cool.
Yeah, like as a little secret admirer. So so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Adam Coleman, founder of Tru-ID Apologetics Ministries, and I'm just out here as an apologist, dad, husband, trying to stay sane with here I am.
I feel
want to be philosopher, maybe.
Yeah, I found out early on that God's got a sense of humor. He gave me girls, and it has been a fun ride since. That's
I hear you, bro.
That's the only word I'm gonna use. But so how many kids you got?
Yeah, so I've got 4 kids. I got a 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 3-year-old, and year and a month old. So he's 1 year. Yeah, so we're in the thick of it right now, man.
Yeah, man, I know that's right. I've got 3 girls, 20, 17, and 7. And
wow, man, you've been good, bro.
Yeah, I love them all, but
still surviving.
I tell the older ones all the time that the 7-year-old's my favorite. So, but she's starting to learn that handout, daddy.
It works, man. It's a shame to say, but I've got one daughter, and I try not to admit it, but she's got me wrapped around her finger, man.
Yeah, it's
I've given up.
I thought I was the man for a long time and pretended like I was the man. And somebody's like, they have you wrapped around the front. Well, no, they don't. Sitting there one day and one come up and laid her head on me and, Dad, can I have this? And then I was like, oh, that's so great. And then 20 minutes later, the other one comes up, Dad, can I have this? And it hit me. I was like, oh my God, I got 2 fingers I'm wrapped around. So
your bank account is empty, and you're like, "What happened?"
That's for sure. That's what I tell people all the time. I make okay money, but I don't ever get to see it. So it's
right. They do, right?
Yeah, that's the handout. That's how they get it.
That's good stuff.
So I got to ask a question.
Sure.
Did Tim really make that shot?
Yeah, he really did it. He really made that shot, man. We were actually at a Maven event. Shout out to Brett Kuckle at Maven. And we were at the facility, and he sucked the shot. He sucked the J, turned around before it went in, and did a little dance like Steph Curry. And I felt so bad, bro. I was, I'm not even sure how it happened, but I needed to file some kind of way. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh. I caught that because I play ball. That was my sport growing up. And so when he was talking about making that shot, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Dude got a PhD, wrote a book, MMA. He's a good shooter. And now he can ball. I'm just like, man, that just ain't right. That's
the total package, man. What do you do?
no, that's right, man. So little segment I'm gonna do real quick here. Part of the show for my beer fans out there. I'm going to start doing the beer of the week. And this one is, if you're not from the South, you probably don't know what it is. It's called Shiner Bock. And it is fantastic between not too heavy, not too light. So for my
something make me blind or something, you know.
Man, look at that color, man. Look at that.
Oh, okay.
That's And so tell me a little bit about Tru-ID. How did you get started? Any projects you guys have coming up or?
Yeah, man. So some years ago I got into apologetics in general. Quite frankly, it was semi through tragedy, actually. Second year married. Life was kind of hitting on all cylinders, man. I got a new job, bought a new home, and ministry was going well. And I was actually on my way to the Christmas trip and found my wife got pregnant. So we were this was our first child, so we were ecstatic. And long story short, we go on the mission trip, and like a week after I get back, she unfortunately had a miscarriage. And it was devastating us. I mean, it really just kind of just rocking the whole world type of situation. But by God's providence, by His grace, it just so happened that about 4 or 5 months before then, my dad had sent me a number of books. Frank Church, writers, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. It was another Frank Church, guys book. I think it was a book by John Lennox, and then William Lane Craig, On Guard. And I had been somewhat introduced to apologetics before, but for whatever reason, when I got those books, it just the light bulb went on. I was like, oh snap! Like there's this whole intellectual side of Christianity that I just hadn't been aware of. You know what I mean? Or just pretty much oblivious to. And I just been eating it up like every day, man. Every day reading this stuff, not realizing that I was building up my faith in such a way that months later, when the miscarriage happened, I was able to navigate that situation in a way that I'm certain that I otherwise would not have. And dealing with the problem of evil and things of that nature, just being able to navigate those things. And quite frankly, I don't know where I'd be had it not been for that. Yeah. So that's why I'm so passionate about apologetics. A couple of years later, I got into. I was listening to apologetics every day, man. All kind of podcasts, all kind of John Lennox, Robbie, Frank Church. All those guys. And as I was listening to YouTube, I came across some objections to Christianity that didn't seem to fit the boxes, the questions that those guys were. Things like, is Christianity the white man's religion? Is the only reason we were, that African Americans are Christians today is because we were beat into it, during the slave trade and things of that nature. And these questions seem to be out of the pale of the kinds of things that were being addressed within the resources that I had been exposed to from a apologetic standpoint. And so I realized that nobody was really answering these questions, and I was grappling with these things myself because I had friends and family members and different people I would encounter that were all grappling with it. I'm like, man, I really need to have an answer for this stuff, And so I just felt compelled to just dig my feet in and just seek the truth and find out, like, does Christianity stand up against these questions as well? And I'm still doing it. Here I am, 5 6 years later, whatever it's been, and I'm still doing it. And eventually I realized that, man, I can't keep it to myself. I've got to spread it to others. And so I launched the Tru-ID podcast that matured into the YouTube channel, and kind of the rest is history. Now we got Tru-ID Apologetics Ministries as of a couple months ago. We're an official nonprofit organization. We got some things coming down the pike, and God's been good, man. God has grown the ministry.
That is awesome. It's you mentioned the problem of suffering. That is a huge area for me. I got into it. I actually had kind of a crisis of faith. I grew up in the streets in Memphis, pretty rough neighborhood, and single mom, and we went to a real legalistic church when I was a little kid, and I kind of just believed Jesus because everybody said, my mom, everybody said Jesus, and went through a lot of things I was put myself through, and be in the wrong crowd and all that. And
Sure.
I just realized, man, I was too smart for that. And I didn't have motivation for school. I was a straight A kid till middle of high school, and I couldn't play football anymore. So I didn't care about it, and didn't have that push at home. So it wasn't until I got away from the crowd, got married, and had my first kid, made a huge mistake, and was looking at some jail time. And I got on my knees because I didn't know where else to go, and I prayed, if you can get me out of this, change this, that, and the other. And of course, I didn't, but I ended up avoiding it. And it was, man, maybe a year or two later, I just had this crashing out of nowhere in my spirit. I just started contemplating heaven, hell, God. Is this stuff real? Is there, really a hell? Is there really a heaven? And so it kind of, that, and I was challenged a lot in my real literal legalistic beliefs that I had, because I never really researched it. And I would argue with people, even though I was dead wrong, because I thought I was right. And after that, man, I went on this journey that I wanted to know. It was kind of like a Cartesian doubt everything, Whoops. Got to put that on silent. But
it's your first podcast. You can do that, man.
Yeah, that's right, man. I can get away with a lot, can't I?
Yeah.
So I kind of, I just had no faith at all, nothing. I mean, the whole world just kind of crashed around me. So I went on this journey, and then, when I started out, I was actually I caught myself looking at other denominations, religions, and things for confirmation bias. I didn't want to change my beliefs. And finally I was just like, wait a minute, why do I even believe Jesus? And so I did a deep dive into other religions, then the historicity of Christ and the resurrection. And kind of like you, first I was stunned that, there was pretty much not even a question that he existed, because I never really thought about it. And I was like, wait a minute, this was a real man that walked on this earth. And so as I got further into it, mesmerized by his teachings, that was one of the things that captivated me, was his teachings. And I couldn't make sense of any of the other religions. And so that's where I was. I was like, man, I guess I'm a Christian, because I'm convinced he was a real guy. And, the resurrection seems to explain, all of the facts. I mean, I know there's a lot of facts people can test and things like that, but, sitting back objectively, looking at the bigger picture, and stumbled into philosophy. And here I am years later with a noodle for a brain, because I just
you said something interesting too, man. Like a couple of things I can really that really resonates with me. So I grew up in I'm from a word of faith background, and thank God he's delivered me from that, But your Kenneth Copeland, your Creflos, and all that kind of stuff. And one thing that's fascinating is I can honestly say I was never in awe of Christ, and specifically in terms of his teachings, until I was an adult and it came out of those settings. And the reason why is because so often they teach certain texts, like when you read a certain text, press down, shaking together, running, whatever text, it's always about money. That's the way that it's taught.
Exactly
right. And so what happens is it really sucks the glory out of the scriptures when you approach it that way. But then God delivers you from that, and you're like reintroduced to the scriptures. And you're reading things in context. You're exegeting the text rather than eisegeting money into it. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, snap, that's what he was talking about. And it's so much more beautiful than, what you were taught. And so when I was grown, really, and I'm saying within the last, 7 or 8 years, it's like my mind was blown. I was like, wow, I've heard people say things like, oh man, Jesus teaching the Sermon on the Mount is just so powerful. But I just couldn't get it, because I was reading it through the lens of Creflo, you know what I'm saying, rather than through the lens of the Holy Spirit. You see what I'm saying? Well, yeah, it's a whole. I don't know where we're going to go with that, but right. But thank God for taking me out of it.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of with you because I mean, the televangelist actually had an impact on me. It was Jesse Duplantis and these guys on TV. I was,
yeah, man.
But they and Jesse Duplantis in the end wasn't like he is now. He just kind of like just went wow, So, but I don't
know what happened to him.
Yeah, I was mesmerized by eschatology, and so the one book that nobody wants to read, Revelation, I loved it. Yeah, I was trying to trying to figure it out, So
right.
But yeah, you would something you said kind of resonated with me about the miscarriage. We actually lost a daughter that one was a miscarriage. It was 4 or 5 months into it, and it was sudden, and that was, I mean, people don't, when you hear about other people's miscarriages, you feel bad for them, but you don't realize the impact.
You can't get it. Yeah.
Right. Until it happens, you're like, because you've prepared, you're excited. Yeah. You've gotten past the worry stage. You're at what are we going to have? What's it going to be? And then boom, it's all gone. And you never get to meet them. Not having a boy, can't help but wonder with that one, but
yeah. Well, I mean, in our situation, and I'm just gonna be real with you. I don't know what your audience is like. Maybe they'll get mad at me. I don't know, but
no,
this is why I'm so passionate about the abortion issue.
Oh, me too. Yes,
I don't think people understand just the profundity of that life, just the sacredness, rather, of that life. And I say all the time, there's a reason why. And you got 3 kids, right? So when you go to those, even those early stages, there's a reason why they have those pictures that you can buy. You can buy the sonogram, you can get the 3D sonogram. There's a reason why. I'm saying, because we intuitively understand that there's something in that womb that's precious. There's something that's of me. There's something that's worth having. You know what I mean? Yeah. And for us, like with the first, we unfortunately had a number of different miscarriages, but for that first one, I think she was about 8 weeks in. And so, obviously your first trimester, but it was far enough along for there to be a heartbeat, And so when the doctor tells you there's no heartbeat, right?
Yes.
The sorrow from that, it's like grieving. I mean, it's not like grieving a child. You're grieving a child.
You are grieving, yes.
And people don't understand that. But that's why I think, I'm so passionate about the abortion issue, because those lives, their lives, period. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And you can't strip them of that. And it's just a shame that society just treats that issue so flippantly. I think it's very unfortunate.
I agree. That's actually one of my areas of to delve into favorite. One of my favorite areas. Clinton Wilcox had given me a lot of.
I've seen it online. Yeah.
Oh man, he's that guy is a beast with pro-life. And then there was Francis J. Beckwith, and
of course,
yeah, I got into all of those, and because I'd always taken it from a religious aspect, and I thought it was just a religious argument. And then I realized, that like with secular pro-life, they're not Christians, they're secular,
right.
And they have fantastic arguments, identity arguments, the try to defeat the arbitrariness of defining, the whole personhood thing.
Personhood, right.
Yeah, separating the personhood from a person, I just reject it totally. Anytime an argument goes there, go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, if I was, let's say if I was not a Christian, I was just a straight up materialist, right? But nevertheless, I believe that there was, such thing as ethics. Like there really is an objective right or wrong, right. Which, many materialists do. If that were me, then I would probably be just as, if not more, adamant as being anti-abortion, because really anything that you're going to call personhood, at best, you're talking about a feature of the human person that is emergent from these physical constituents that they're made of. I'm saying it's an emergent property of, that is been gifted to us through evolution and developed through socialization, things of that nature. But ultimately, it's still going to reduce down to the same kind of material stuff that I am. So it's super arbitrary for me to snuff out, the fetus, at conception, when really it's only different for me in time. You know what I'm saying? In development. I mean, as a materialist, I would think that you would have a problem with it, which is why Christopher Hitchens, if my understanding is correct, had an issue with abortion. It was along those same lines. It's just that.
Yeah, I've met quite a few atheists that are pro-life because they are, materialist or, the very good arguments. And, for all the people that may watch this that are pro-choice, first of all, pro-lifers, they get painted as like, we don't care about the woman, but I mean, we absolutely do. We, I don't know any that pro-lifers that would ever say that a woman can't, end the pregnancy when she's going to die. That's never been,
right.
And that's never been, it's a medical decision. I mean, it's never been illegal. So here's here's two of the biggest issues that I have with it. One, the only time we ever try to remove personhood or define personhood is for a certain people we want to oppress. That's how it's always been done. That was the argument for slavery. That was the argument for Nazis, in Germany. That was, they weren't people. They were less than people. And two, when you can live in a state that a mother wants to keep the baby and somebody harms the baby and they get charged with murder, or she doesn't want to keep it and go right down the street, that is horrible law. How is that even? It makes the value is literally dependent on whether they are wanted or not. And I just, everybody should be able to agree that that's pretty crappy. But
well, and now here's the thing. Now I take it even further because on the one hand, first of all, I totally agree with you. Like with your first point, obviously that intersects a lot with what I do from an apologetic standpoint. But we can look at the writings of even like a Thomas Jefferson. Some of his correspondence with certain individuals questioning the personhood of slaves, and a whole host of others. I mean, that was the issue of the day, to a large extent. But even further than that, I mean, when you think about today's issue, because like. Now, I'm going to straight up say, like, some of the things I would hold to or believe would be appropriate for our society wouldn't fit within the conservative box, and I own that, but I do believe it fits within a biblical box, So
I'm not that way either. So
right, but I believe it fits within a biblical box, and so I think that I'm all for, like, when people talk about, oh man, we need to be concerned about the infant mortality rate, and it's these economic pressures that lead women to these situations, and it's all these. Look, I'm all for exploring and being proactive and engaging the well-being of others. I'm with that. I'm down with that 100%. I'm talking about economics, all that. We can explore all that to whatever extent we can assist people. I'm with it. But when you think about the abortion issue, I'm saying, like, abortion itself doesn't solve those problems.
Nope.
It doesn't solve the problem of economics. When people talk about, oh, there's shaming in the communities when a woman gets pregnant, well, abortion doesn't solve that, right? Because that's still going on, right? So you're proposing something that doesn't solve the problem. And so if you really want to solve those problems, let's talk about that. Let's talk about community reform. Let's talk about, preaching the gospel so that, people's hearts are changed and so they can act in more grace towards others. From a church standpoint, we can certainly have those conversations, but killing babies doesn't solve those problems. And so,
I agree.
I'm always looking for somebody to fill in the blank. Okay, ... Therefore, we should kill babies. That's what I'm always waiting for. And so if you can't fill in the blank on that, I'm sorry, I can't ride with you.
Yeah, and right along that point, I'm right there with you. I think a lot of conservative Christians need to get off their butts about this, not educating sex education, not teaching safe sex, contraceptives. I'm so tired of them acting. I understand that abstinence is the best policy, obviously, but we live in a world where that's just not feasible. People just don't, our culture doesn't allow. We can teach our children, and I absolutely advocate, my kids, when they were young, we sat down and had the whole talk about the design of marriage, what it was for, and not necessarily just from a Christian perspective. It's when you have that commitment there, you're creating the best environment to raise a child in. And that was kind of how we brought it up to them. Hey, this is what leads to it. This was the design of it, and this is the best way to do it.
Right. Absolutely.
And all the risk, we didn't hold back. I mean, we talked to them about all the risks, and
man, when I was younger, the scariest thing in the world to me was the idea of having a child out of wedlock. It was like, oh my gosh, I was so afraid. I was like, that to me was a turn. I know that for everybody that doesn't work. I get that,
Yeah.
But there's various different ways that we can be proactive to, at very least, curtail the degree to which abortions are occurring. I mean, and we should continue the legal fight. I'm all with that.
Mm-hmm.
Get as many justices as you can, get as many governors, and so on and so forth. I'm all with that. But in addition to that, what else can we do in addition, so that until we can get these legal things, to come about, we can maybe save some lives in the meantime? And if that means that we need to take care of people better in order to do so, I'm with that. If that means saving a life, I'm with it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is on that.
Absolutely. And I think an aspect that needs to be discussed about it, is, like I said, where, pro-lifers are often accused of not caring about the mother, but more pro-lifers tend to be, in my experience, more aware of the social and mental effects that it has on women. The numbers, the statistics are astronomical. Depression, anxiety, suicide. It's because it's just, even taking God out of it, it's just, it's such a personal, and for any women that are listening or may listen to this, you get no judgment whatsoever from here. Right. We love you. We don't care what you've done. We don't care what your views are. You're allowed to fight for what you believe, and we will support your right. Absolutely, we will support your right for that. We just have our view, and it's not all religious based either. It's a.
Hey, and I'm not gonna front, man. Like, listen, I'm as honest as I can be about this. Part of the reason why I'm passionate about this is because I've sat with my wife after having lost children. You know what I'm saying? I've been as close now. I'm not a female, and I understand that. Obviously, I'm not a female. There are elements to that I will never understand.
Right.
But being in such proximity to that, and seeing the tears, like, I don't want anybody to have to go through that. I don't want anybody to, in the moment. And here's the thing: I'm also a social worker by trade, right? And so I've dealt with countless.
Good for you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. I've dealt with countless single moms, and I've seen people in really bad situations. And I just know that I wouldn't want anybody to, given a certain situation that they find themselves in presently, to make a decision that later on down the road, when it hits you, it's like, dang, I did that. Like, that's tough, man. That's real.
And at that point, man, all I ever do is I make sure they understand, man. I love you. I don't care. Whatever you've done, I guarantee that is not half as bad in my book as a lot of the stuff that I did. So, I mean,
there's no judgment, right? Who am I to judge anybody? It's not about that at all.
Absolutely.
It's about compassion, man.
That's exactly right. I'd said that we had lost a child. My 7-year-old is a identical twin, and we made it to the end. And like you said, getting that, from the doctor, there's no heartbeat was, it was, I mean, we were a week away from him being born, and she had to carry her for that last week. And that's not something that you just get over. She was severely, just brought down. I mean, she was on, and me being, a man and growing up in the, toxic masculinity, I got to be the tough guy, kind of stuff. And so I was the jerk that didn't properly grieve with her. And it just made it worse, because I just, I've had so many hardships in my life. I stuff it in the back of my head and keep going. And that was terrible at that time. And we both paid for it, but that has a lot to do with my pro-life stance too, and
see, here's the thing, man. Like, when it comes to apologetics, like, look, I love apologetics. I study apologetics every day. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it's what I do. I love it. I'm saying, as soon as I get off of this live, I'm going to go read something about apologetics. I'm going to read some books. This is what I do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But with that being said, there's this other side to the Christian experience that I think sometimes gets lost in all the intellectual aspect of apologetics. I mean, like there's this relational aspect to where we stand in relation to God, obviously. And we can't leave that part behind. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're not attending to that emotional aspect of yourself, then you're not going to be functional enough to do these other things. Like I'll never forget, man, when the miscarriage happened with us, right? I used to go to this church basketball night every Wednesday, you know, and I'm a pretty laid back guy. You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of my vibe, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm playing ball. I love playing basketball, and I missed a jump shot. And I'll never forget. I have never been a cusser, like ever. You know what I'm saying? Like even in my days or whatever. I was, it's just not. I'm one of those people that like when they cuss, it don't even sound right. You know what I'm saying? I'm one of those. I can't even do it right.
You can't even do
it. You know what I'm saying? Man, I'm telling
Adam
you.
said, "Damn."
Right. Well, no, I did. You know. And so what happened? I'm in a church and I take a dump shot and I run over to I missed it and I ran over to the side. I kicked over a chair and I was just cussed like it's super loud. And bro, I kid you not, it scared me, man.
Yeah.
It scared me because I know that wasn't me. I was like, man, you know what? I really need some help. Like that came from somewhere. I mean, I'm a social worker, I'm a therapist, and so I tend to have a pretty good gauge of where I'm at emotionally. And I said, you know what? Nah, man, that's not good. I need to get some help. And I really wish men would really get hold of that. You know, I can easily be a Lone Ranger type. That's my temperament. You know what I mean? But I learned that as life starts kind of going on, you got kids, you got a house, mortgage, whatever your situation is, you start realizing that the Lone Ranger stuff, that's not how we were created, man. We were created exactly for fellowship with God and with man. And we have to be vulnerable with one another. Or else we just can't grow. We're into repressing stuff and it's going to come out one way or the other.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That's, mental health is one of the things I speak out on a lot because I've suffered with depression, most of my life. I suffer with an anxiety disorder, and I have a younger brother who's schizophrenic that we take care of. And I've seen, so I've done lots of study, and you're absolutely right. The toxicity, you learn things the wrong way for so long. There's no such thing as be a man. There's no such thing as toughen up.
Yeah, man.
That's not who Jesus was. That's not who we're supposed to be. That has crept into our society. The old, they don't make men anymore. That kind of stuff. They don't go to the doctor. Or, I'll tell anybody, if you don't go to the doctor, you're not tough. You're an idiot. And one of the things I say a lot of the times is I keep hearing this, we're an over-medicated society. And I'm like, no, we're under-medicated because we know the medicines that prevent things now. And people are taking those medicines to prevent them. It's not because they want to shove pills down our throat. It's because we have the technology. Why not take advantage of it?
And it's I'm telling you, man, I've had, so currently I work with veterans. I'm a social worker with veterans, help them find housing, homeless vets particularly. But in the job I had previous to this, I was a mentor, and I've just, given my own demographic, I typically found myself working with young African-American males. And I'm telling you, bro, without fail, there's types of anger that you can see on a young man that were very different than anything else. You could see it. It was almost like they would just wear it like a garment. And one would be if the child had been sexually abused.
Yep.
And number two, dad wasn't there, and then some of them for that dad thing, I've seen kids who were running the streets, hardcore, selling drugs, the whole nine. And we've been working together for months. And we start talking about that dad issue and just see him break just like that. Sobbing, crying, 17, 18 years old, break. When their dad thing comes up, why didn't he want me? Yeah. Why did why wasn't I good enough? Why didn't he stay? And those kind of things. You can't say, tough it up, man. Walk it off.
Right.
No, man. We know better than that now. It's just like with the NFL. Like back in the 80s, you get your bell rung. Man, walk it off. You're in there the next play. You know what I'm saying?
And then you get a concussion.
You know what I'm saying? We know better.
Yeah.
And so now that we know better, we ought to do better, right? But so I think a lot of people have to get out of that. We need to take full advantage of the full range of what the Bible has to say about well-being. And we have to stop treating each other like savages. Like, we weren't created to be that way. We were created to be people, and we have to do better about that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that kind of sticks with me is kind of the dad backstory. It's very complicated, but my dad wasn't there, and I went through a lot of those thoughts, and then found out later in life it wasn't totally his fault that he wasn't there. So it kind of lived a life for a long time,
Sure.
and but yeah, I can tell you firsthand. I mean, a kid that's 12, 13 years old, how many times I broke down in the closet and just, why doesn't he want me? Where's he at? Things like that. And it definitely does. And, the abuse, that is something that's a lot more prevalent and rampant that people want to admit. And it is something we have got to stamp out. I mean, it is so damaging. But
and see, this is why we have to get the gospel right. This is why we have to get apologetics right. Because when I'm doing apologetics, when I'm evangelizing, I'm not trying to introduce you to a proposition.
Right.
I'm trying to reconcile you to a person, the person of Jesus Christ. Right. It's that personal relationship. Because when you think about the book of Job, right? Job had all these questions, and you go through 30, 40 chapters or whatever it is, and you got all these problems going on, all these questions. But what was it that basically, in the end, resolved the issue for Job? It was a personal encounter with God. It wasn't just thinking out loud and figuring stuff out. He had a personal interaction with God. Jesus teaches, like, look, if you abide in me, I'll abide in you. You'll bear fruit. I know I misquoted that, but
yeah, that's close enough.
Close enough, right? But without me, you can do nothing. That's what Jesus said, right? And so, why do we think we can live apart from the vine? So, when we're doing apologetics, if we're doing it right, then we ought to be guiding people toward the person of Jesus Christ, and a better understanding of Him. And if we're not doing that, then what are we doing here? We're just pontificating about stuff that we think is interesting, but we're not really following through to, hey, do you know Jesus? And what does that mean for you in your life? Where can He bring about healing and those kind of things?
Yeah, it's my focus is kind of I spend a lot of time with atheists, because a lot of them come from a real legalistic fundamentalist background, which is kind of the same thing that I was hurt by. And you were talking about, Jesus and all of that. So my goal is to try to repair some of the damage. And, I want to love them regardless of what they believe or don't believe. I want them to know that there are Christians out there who take Christ's word serious. Like I think I said earlier, I kind of hold to a mere Christianity. I follow Christ and His teachings, and I just want to love people, man. I spent so long being the guy that separated people or was divisive, or, a lot of fighting, things like that. And it's irreparable damage, and you regret it later in life, because there were so many people don't realize who we have a impact on, because I can tell you now, there's people that's impacted me that has no idea. Sometimes just a simple statement, things like that. And so I want to be the opposite of what I was, and kind of, just hope that somebody, sees Christ in me, and wants to know more about it, or, they see I'm kind of rough around the edges because of where I came from. And I spent a long time trying to not be me, talking with people. And then I finally realized, there's a reason that God let me go through all the things I did. And it's because of the people that I was supposed to reach and love and heal. And a lot of the people that respond to me being myself are the ones who don't normally respond to, typical Christians, or, like going to church atmosphere and things like that, because that's not, I grew up in the streets. They grew up in the streets. They want somebody who can relate with them, not somebody. I mean, and a lot of them don't realize, when they feel like they're being judged, they're really not. It's just they carry that guilt and that burden, so they, so they think everybody's looking at them, and I understand it, because I was that person at one time. So When I'm around them, I flat out tell you now, I drop S bombs and D bombs all the time around them. But that's just, but the response has been far better than anything I've ever, trying to not be me. I just couldn't do it.
If I tried that, like I said, I would sound crazy. I would be out here, sounding weird. Like, nah, man, I just leave it alone, bro. But I mean, it's funny. Like, I've actually chilled out quite a bit. I mean, I used to be like when I first started like getting into apologetics, man. Like, if you go far enough back on my Facebook feed, man, I used to be in there battling. I'd be going for it. But now. I can get that way, but I kind of chill out now. I mean, unless somebody takes me, the only time I'll get like that is if I hop on a thread and I see somebody like bullying Christians, then I got to put on my big brother hat, and that's when I got to get you. I got to knock you out. But other than that, I try to carry it, pretty chill, man.
Well, it's
that's
funny.
Me. That's
right,
me,
right, yeah. That's me. I'm a huge anti-bull. I cannot stand bullying because I know where it comes from. It's it's extreme insecurity, and at the expense of other people, they are building themselves up, or they think they're making themselves look better. So, yeah, it's funny how I ended up with starting this podcast and all of that was because I had gotten on TikTok. And was just there to watch videos and stuff. My daughters kept bringing me all these funny videos. I was like, man, that's cool. And then, the algorithm changes as stuff that you like. So when you like some sad, sappy stories or, Christian stuff, and then next thing I know, man, I see just bullying left and right, but it was Christians. Wow. And, well, it was new atheists and Christians. And, coming from the circles that we come from, the kind of example and the high level of philosophy that we're in, I'm like, whichever side they're dancing around like they're an intellect or something. So
it's so irritating, bro.
And it's like, that's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. That's a fallacy.
Right.
So I got sick of it one day and I started calling them all out, all the ones that were bullying each other. And, and then I ended up having a few, the atheists, like over at the Atheist Roundtable wanted to, me to come over and come on and talk to them. And it's a great group over there. They're still in their, some of them are still in that screw religion phase, but they're good people, man.
Well, that's keep doing what you do with that, man. That's dope. I mean, it's good to have dialogue when you can. I think that it's very important. Particularly when you live in like a pluralistic society, you got all these different views and whatnot. I think dialogue is healthy. I think
absolutely.
We need to make sure we keep expressing ourselves to one another and hearing, so that it doesn't become like this powder keg situation, which I mean, unfortunately, kind of has been over the last couple months. But that's a lot of stuff going on nowadays, man.
It is.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
I just was kind of one of the things we wanted to talk about with you was
Sure.
Not being as white as I am, from a different perspective, it's we're all on the brown scale. It's just where you're at,
Just where you're at, right. That's true.
Yeah. So, I'm actually, I am a Black Lives supporter, a Black Lives Matter supporter. Of course, not necessarily the organization, but but the idea behind it. I read a book. It was called The New Jim Crow. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of things, which I had seen the war on drugs impact in the community I was in, so I already didn't like, the war on drugs. But after seeing the numbers, the rate that we lock our citizens up at and the rate we lock minorities up in this country at a phenomenal rate, more than the rest of the world. And this is supposed to be the land of the free. I mean, it is insane. So, a lot of people, they live in their bubbles, and because they don't witness it firsthand, then it doesn't happen, that's what I was saying in the beginning was, okay, let's concede the point. It doesn't happen to the point, that they're saying it is. Okay, we have a family in our country who thinks by astronomical numbers they're not being treated fair. Why are you going to go out and go against them? Why wouldn't you do something to help them? Why not reach out to them and help change that perspective? Why are you just going to build walls and divide. There's no sense in that. That just, oh yeah, I just.
Hey, God is greater than racism, man. I got the shirt right here. You know what I mean?
That's
God's greater than
awesome,
racism.
man.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's partly. I think America kind of needs a redo in terms of how we teach history. It's kind of hard to understand where you are unless you understand, some things about where you've been. I mean, you can miss some things. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I think that you have different groups in America that have very different, just fundamentally different understandings of what this country is and what it has been. And I think that what we need to do is it's kind of like with take the beam out of your own eye,
right,
so that you can take the speck out of your brother's. Like, we really need to sit together and dialogue with one another so that we can come to what is the reality about who we are and who we've been as a nation.
Absolutely.
I think that's so key, because if honestly, like, coming up, I mean, you have Black History Month or whatever, and you learn about Harriet Tubman, which respected her, obviously, the greats, Martin Luther King. Maybe a Frederick Douglass, and if your teacher's going above and beyond, like a Garrett Morgan or something like that, they're really going above and beyond then. But for the most part, it's like, all right, you were in slavery, Martin Luther King did his thing, and then now everything's good, But and I think that's just how it's taught. But the reality is, there's this protracted period of not just slavery, but various forms of oppression.
Absolutely.
And if you don't understand that, then you really don't get why people are so upset today. And I just did a teaching on this a couple of weeks ago for Ratio Christie. And I think sometimes people feel like, oh, you're a leftist. It was like, look, I'm just giving you the history. I haven't even given you I haven't even given you what I think about it. I'm just helping you to understand these historical events. I'm just putting that before you. But people have a hard time stomaching that, because quite frankly, I think it kind of messes with their concept of identity and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we have a very dangerous type of nationalism going on in this country.
Oh, sure.
And it is the nationalistic identity is, nationalism rarely is ever a good thing, because it allows you to press other nations and other people, in the name of being a great country. But that's that's where, I was kind of blessed on this whole thing, because growing up in Memphis, it's very diverse, and that's where Martin Luther King was killed. And I have admired Martin Luther King since I was a kid, because he was a great preacher, and two, how could you not admire someone who motivated people without violence? And was so impactful with what he did. And so, he's always been, a hero of mine. But yeah, it's the facts, man. And that's the sad thing, is we're so left and right in this country that you can't even look at the facts. And here's where I like to bring it around is when I hear that we had a Black president or stuff like that. We've come so far. I'm like, wait a minute. You do know that there are still grandparents around who went through the civil rights. There are,
of course,
who were beat by police.
My parents, like my parents. Right. I mean, not even grandparents. They're my parents. Right.
Yeah, everybody acts like you're getting up there, bud.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, everybody acts like this was like 200-300 years ago. It's like, bro, we're not that many generations removed. It didn't just get fixed overnight, so.
Right. I mean, to be honest with you, I think, and I know this may sound controversial, but when we look back over what's happened in 2020, whether it be the George Floyd, the Ahmaud Arbery, and all these kinds of things, I think you have this contingent, and I think it's probably underestimated or understating to say contingent. I think you have a large body of people who are shocked and surprised. Like, man, I thought, why is this happening now? And quite frankly, in my opinion, I think that what we're seeing in society today is exactly where we should expect to be. I think this is exactly, given the history, given the way that things have unfolded. And I'm talking about since the Civil Rights Movement. I'm not even talking about up until 1964. I'm talking about from 64 on. I think this is exactly where we should expect to be. And the question is, what are we going to do now? Are we going to kind of just, create a caricature of who we really are? You know what I'm saying? And to say, oh, no, we're really this, but no, we need to really sit with where we are so that we can grow, rather than try to, what I call fig leafing. Adam and Eve, where they had the fig leaves and covered up. I mean, we don't need to be fig leafing. We need to just accept this is where we are, and here's how we move forward.
Yeah, that's one of the big things is failure to really understand the scope of what happened in the past, and trying to move too fast is, people just, it really gets me that it's the closed-mindedness, the bubble that people are in. You just really hit it on the head when you said anytime you talk about it, you're a leftist, and
you're a leftist, right, yeah,
right. Exactly. I'm traditionally a conservative. But the Conservative Party left me. So it's, I was a never Trumper. I voted third party both times.
Well, that's very interesting. And it's funny you should say that, because I think that, and I'm not sure why. I'm not a historian, so I had to really think about why this is, but I do believe that the conservatives and we'll say progressives, I don't think there is as snug a fit with the groups that are kind of in society. I mean, among politicians, those are real groups, but I feel like there's a disconnect between those groups and the common man, probably more so than there has been in the past. And like I said, I'm not a historian, so I have to kind of think about that. But I mean, to your point, quite frankly, in the Black community, obviously, to vote Democrat is just like, it's like getting baptized. I mean, it's just something that you do, but morally speaking, in terms of moral values, the Black community has traditionally been more akin to what conservatives would put on the table from a moral standpoint, and so I think what's happening now is some of those divergences are kind of made more manifest, and maybe it's because of social media, maybe it's because we're in the information age, and so more ideas can be exchanged. I'm not really sure why, but there does seem to be. These politicians are just out of touch, man. And I don't think they really reflect, where we are, man. I really
absolutely. Don't. That's I'm just, I'm more socially left and fiscally right.
I got you.
I'm not anti-government guy. I think government has a role. I think it's just gotten a little too big. But as far as I'm more or less a libertarian, just not a crazy libertarian. It's
I got you.
Yeah, more of a kind of constitutionalist kind of person.
But see, that's an important distinction, though. And I think this is where I think a lot of our conversations are so overly, I'll just say watered down. And the reason why I say, like, when you look on the news, it's like, Democrats, Republicans, conservatives,
straight down the line, right?
Straight down the line, and it's like, nah, man, there's lots of different subgroups, and quite frankly, shout out to my man Leroy Hill. He kind of corrected me on this, just to be more careful when I'm talking about conservatism or liberals, that there's really these subgroups and divisions. Like, you have to take time and tease out where people are really coming from, or else you can really make hasty generalizations and assumptions about people. But it's just our conversations have been so dumbed down by just fast food media. You know what I mean?
Oh man, it's amazing. We have more information at our fingertips than we've ever had, but yet the largest amount of misinformation. It's insane. People are so lazy. It just, but
it's like you're a mile wide and an inch deep kind of thing. It's all this information, right?
Yeah. Originally, I was far left because my mom's kind of hippie. So I can't, growing up, I thought Bill Clinton was the greatest man ever alive. They almost worshipped him where I live. So
he played the saxophone. That's all they needed, man.
I got older and had to pay taxes when I made a little more money. No, I'll tell you, do you know how I became conservative? I hated Rush Limbaugh, but I'd never heard the man speak. And so I started listening to him because I hated him. And I was driving down the road and I'm like, man, that makes sense, and then the more I listened to him, but then I started kind of drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit and went, well, so
too far with him. I got you.
Eventually I've just finally realized that the left and the right are two different sides of the same coin. And
I agree,
the majority of Americans are right in the middle between them. And
you know what? So check this out, right? And I could be just dead wrong about this. This is just something that popped in my head not too long ago. I wonder sometimes, I hear what you're saying about the left and the right being two sides of the same coin. But I wonder, maybe to use a different analogy, it seems to me that at least in some ways, the left is maybe instead of looking at it as two sides of the same coin, we look at it as like a scale. You know what I'm saying? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like conservative, 10 being liberal. I feel like that's kind of reflective of where they are. Because when you think about like liberty, like doing what you want, like that's an American, that's the, conservatives would affirm that. Yeah, do what you want to do. It's just that liberals take that further and be like, yeah, do what you want, as in, pertaining to gender and abortion and all these kinds of, and so the conservatives are like, whoa, that's not what we meant. You know what I'm saying? But it's the same principle. It's just run amok, basically. And I kind of wonder about that.
Well, that's one of the things that I actually say a lot is I'm more of a classical liberal, because I said, the left today, at least, the hard left aren't liberals, they're progressives. They want government to enact everything, when originally it was, get government out and let us live our own lives, so
right.
And I think a lot of Americans kind of moved over to the right because the left had gone so far left. And now that it's gone so far right, people like me are like, yeah, let's go back over this way.
Right, that way, right. Yeah.
But being originally a conservative, I mean, Trump's not a conservative. It was, when you're talking about building $1 billion, so many $1 billion for a wall, I'm like, that's not conservative principles. But
it's funny, man. I was telling my homeboys, like, fam, like Trump, he became a conservative like 2 weeks before he ran for office. Like,
he spent his whole life as a Democrat.
Right,
so
like,
like
what are we talking? He has like no capital here, like no tenure.
He's a populist. He's a populist. That's funny, but
my concern is, I think sometimes, like in going back to the idea of conservatism in the purest sense of the word, is this notion of you want to hold on to the ideals and principles that this society was founded on. I think there's something to be appreciated about that. My concern is that when Christians presuppose that those ideals and values were necessarily biblical, and historically, that's just not true. Historically, obviously America, for anybody who studied it, America is certainly the inheritant of the secular Enlightenment period flowing from Europe. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You can't read, John Locke. You can't read Thomas Jefferson and, the Federalist Papers. You can't read those things and not see that. And so some of the things that that some of my Christian conservative brothers and sisters are trying to conserve are in actuality not Christian at all. It's just that, many of our brethren have assumed that that's the case. And so my thing is, what we need to do is let's start from biblical axioms.
Yep.
Let's start from what are the principles that we can derive from Scripture, and in so much that we can apply those in this broken world, let's do that, and let's not get drawn aside by this partisan thing. But let's start with Scripture, and then we bring that to bear in how we engage politics. And I think that's we've kind of got it backwards. I think we're allowing the world, and I'm talking about both liberals and
oh yeah, I agree.
I think we're allowing the world to dictate to us, where we're supposed to be on things, rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times they forget, a theocracy is not biblical. And a lot of people actually don't realize they want a theocracy. And that's not what, a lot of the founding fathers, there were quite a few of them that were deists or just agnostic. We can say it's founded on Judeo-Christian principles, but it wasn't founded as a Christian nation. It was a place where people could worship freely without being, oppressed by the government. And that's so I get nervous when I start hearing about one of the things that started to move me away from being a conservative, which is kind of dangerous itself, because when you start talking about conserving traditions, I mean, what is the tradition of this country? What was it built on? So,
yeah,
you know what I mean.
I can straight up say that there's certain parts of our American heritage here. I'm not trying to conserve that. Jake,
that's right. Yeah, I forgot who was the comedian that said that was talking about a time machine, and he said something. Well, if you're white, you can go back here, there, and there, and then if you're not, you're just like, nope, no, I'll stay here.
I give you about 10, 20 years after that. Bro.
So,
and that was the whole controversy around, and I'm not trying to make it all political, but that was the whole controversy around the slogan, "Make America Great Again." And
again, when was it great? Right.
Again, it's like, that's where we got different perspectives. Like, what are we talking about here? I'm not trying to go back. Anything in the 1800s is definitely out the gate. If we're not trying to do that.
It's like no. We're not going back to that great America. Let's stay in this one. That's
I'm
it.
good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
it's no, I'm with you there. I said the same thing. You know, I know it was just a play on Reagan's, you know, "Make America Great," which is the one, ironically, who funded the large. He funded the largest amount federal government budget for the war on drugs. So even then, it just, you know, people that come from the neighborhoods I come from that are, you know, half political savvy know that. So when somebody says, "Let's make America great again," it's like, oh God, here we go. Another Reagan, which I loved Reagan, you know, as a conservative, I loved Reagan until I found out that, you know, the whole massive federal budget that he passed just to fight the war on drugs. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, you know, me, I didn't grow up in the toughest neighborhood, you know, or anything like that. But I had friends and family members that were either, you know, selling or impacted by drugs one way or the other. And for me, like, honestly, coming up, like, I'm like, man, you know, if you get caught selling drugs, that's on you, bro. You know, that's your fault. But as I got older and could see it, like, from a more bird's eye view, wait a minute, you know, there's some other things going on here that is more than just, you know, my cousin over here is selling this or doing that. You know what I mean? There's this other structure that really traces back to what does it mean to govern well? Like, what are the authorities doing in any given area to govern well? Are they doing that? And when they don't, there are these negative side effects, you know, that one can expect, you know, i.e. these social maladies and so forth, including, you know, the drug trade. So, you know, it all kind of flows together, man. And, you know, I'm not a Biden, you know, guy. I mean, I wasn't a Trump guy, you know what I mean? And so I'm just kind of like,
where's my guy? Hey, where's my guy?
You know, just, you know, stay out of my pocket, and, you know, let me you know, raise my kids the way I need to raise them, and
that's
worship God how I need to worship. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of where I'm at. You know what I mean?
I'm with you all the way on that, man. One of my jokes every time, you know, I talk to everybody. I'm just a talker. And one of the jokes is, you know, all the time, it's like, you know, how did we end up with these two? How do we get to the point that this is?
It's bad, man. It's bad, bro. Man, and I think it's to the point now where it's like, if anything, America's got a lot of soul searching to do, you know, because, you know, it seems like every issue nowadays is polarizing. I mean, daggone it, we had a pandemic. Then that was polarizing. They politicized that. You know what I'm saying? Like, people literally dying and getting sick, and somehow that became a political issue. And I understand how politics intersects with, you know, the everyday. I get it. But we're too party driven. We're far more party driven than we need to be, to where now our priorities are not being taken care of. It's more so about power and who's getting in office. And I think that we need to say, you know what, honestly, and this is not any slight on anybody, but I'll put this on myself. Like, you know, have I been as active in the political process as I need to be? No. You know, am I voting in my local elections? Or haven't been? You know, I'm correcting that now. But what are we as citizens? Like, we have to take ownership. Like, in terms of where, you know, Trump and Biden came from, they came from us. Like, we allowed these people to get
that's
to that
exactly
point.
right.
Like, you know, like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's a good point. We're the ones who keep putting people in office that, you know, everybody wants, and that's where I'm kind of torn. You know, people talk about term limits, and I'm like, wait a minute, because being more libertarian, I'm like, the people should have the right to put who they want in there, regardless of how long they're in there. But you know, because if they want if he's a representative for an area and that's who they want, you know, why should we? But at the same time, it's like, you know, our government was never meant to be a full-time job. So it's
right. Well, I mean, I think there's pros and cons to it. I mean, on the one hand, I think consistency is good when you have somebody who's willing to truly be a civil servant and govern for the good. You know, if they're really about that, I think that can be good. On the other hand, you know, just human nature, I think that we tend to get lazy. You know what I mean? And I'm just speaking from my perspective. This is what it is. But, like, you know, the Democratic Party, I think, is lazy. You know what I'm saying? You know, if you're telling me for as far back as my community can, you know, can reach back. Well, actually, I can't even say that. But I'll just say for the last 5. That might even be. I'll say for the last 5 decades. I mean, if you're all about the Black community, and yet, you know, at the same time, the best you can do is hop on the Breakfast Club and say, well, if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. I mean, come on, man. You're dead to me at that point. I want nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? I'm done. But at the same time, but then if you got another guy on the other end who's like, man, we don't want these people from his old countries, and go back to the country. Saying crazy. Go back to the country where you came from, the people of color. I mean, it's like, man, I can't rock with that cat either. So it's like, we stuck, man. We in bad shape, bro. We in bad shape.
He's like, hell, I didn't want to come here in the first place. What do you mean?
Right? Where did you go back? Right.
Yeah, he's a soundbite machine. I love it. It's, some of the stuff he says is just.
It's crazy.
He was running for a senator when he's running for president, and it was what was it about the poor kids? He said something like,
"Oh yeah, that was terrible, man."
Yeah, he said something like,
he worded it to where it's like the poor kid. Then he associated him with being black or non-white.
Like there's no, it's like only black folks are poor, and it's like, bro, man,
like, real, bro? Man. That's what I'm saying. Is that these guys are lazy. What's her name? The one before him, Hillary. Taking hot sauce out the purse and all. Get out of here with that, man. We ain't trying to hear that.
Yeah, that's pandering, man.
It's pandering. Now, here's the thing, though. This is what I think needs to happen, right? It goes back to what you said about the voting third party. Now, a lot of people will say, well, voting third party, oh, you're just throwing your vote away. I'm a third party voter myself, so I can rock with you on that. Now, my perspective is like this, right? Let's say you're in a battle. Think of something like D-Day or something like that, right? And you're a general, and you're like, all right, I need, Corporal so-and-so I need you to take that hill. Now, and the corporal knows that hill, they're dead. It's a wrap. They're done. They're not making it. It's a suicide mission. However, you also know that the enemy force on the other side can't take 5 waves of your guys. So you're gonna lose 3, but for the sake of the war, you're gonna win out in the end. Kind of utilitarian view, right? Yeah. So ultimately, even though the first couple of waves it may seem like a waste, it's for a greater good. And you're gonna get victory in the end. Now, here's where I go with that. I look at it the same way with third party voting. Right now, it may seem as though it's a waste, but I think we need to destabilize this dual power structure between the Democrats and Republicans. Like, we don't need a third party candidate to win.
Right.
I just need you to lose enough votes to this third party candidate to know that, what, if I want to secure my position to, get elected, I've got to appeal to these voters who are willing to give their vote to this other guy. That's all you need. You don't need a third party winner. You just need a third party threat. That's all you need.
And I would love to see one of the third party candidates get up on the stage and debate with them, because, they got to get a certain amount of vote. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't care when people tell me I throw my vote away, this, that, and the other. I vote my conscience. I'm not picking the lesser of two evils. I don't have to, and I'm not going to. And I'm one of those that I don't say anything negative to people that don't vote. If they don't like the candidates, that's their right. And I think it's,
right, I'd rather you vote your conscience than to
right. If somebody doesn't want to vote into a system that they believe is immoral, they shouldn't be shamed into doing it. Right. And it makes me mad when I hear people say, well, people died for that right. Yeah, and they died for the right to not vote too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been in both positions. I've been in situations where I voted and I didn't feel great about it. I've been in situations where I voted or where I just didn't vote. And then more recently, I'm pretty committed to this third party position, unless I kind of reason to something else. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. And my thing is, now I'm going to quote Donald Trump. It's like I look at it as like, what do you have to lose? Like, I mean, for real, like, honestly, to the Black community, you've been rocking with the Democrats for decades, and too many of us still broke. Like, we still not doing all that.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
To my white Christian brothers, I'm saying, who are all about abortion. It's like, well, you've been fighting that since 1973, and it's still on the books.
That's exactly right.
So my thing is, like, what can we do differently, right? I think if we want either party to take us seriously, you know what I'm saying, then what we need to do is we need to destabilize their sense of power. And I think I was watching this documentary on the prohibition movement, kind of like how it came about. That it kind of goes against you drinking beer right now, right? But
that's I
know you're not trying to hear that, but right. But there was this documentary about like how that even happened, like how to get to the point where they got this thing, an amendment or whatever for a prohibition, and they just showed how the prohibitionists were like, look, when it comes to politicians, we don't care what you do or who you're with. Either you're riding with us or you're against us. Period. Yeah. If you're with us, you get our vote. If you don't, you don't. You know what I mean? And that's how they carried it. And they amassed so much power to where they could really influence elections. And so those politicians had to cater to their perspectives. And so I think as the church, what we need to do is start from biblical axioms. I'm saying we need to get on the same page in terms of what does it look like for Christian principles to be applied in society to whatever extent that we can. I understand it's a broken world, but we need to bring that to bear in public discussions, and we need to hold people's feet to the fire. You say, look, this is where we're at. Now, either you ride with us or you're not. If you want this vote, you're going to have to work for it. That's how we need to be. And if you're not doing that, then all they're going to do is keep throwing the carrot in front of you and year after year.
I can get on that boat. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people just need to chill. Everybody needs to just mellow, like Cheech and Chong, mellow, or right. Was it Martin? It was a whoosah. Woosah. We got to. Everybody just calm down.
Serenity down.
Let the temperature go down. Everything's gonna be good. Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's there's just too much division. We got to come together. It's there was it's like the thing like with race. I mean, it's literally skin deep. It's a social construct. Sure, very few countries deal with race issues. It is something that's kind of been inbred in this country as a way to keep the ruling class. And the people have
Bacon's rebellion here. Okay.
People have bought into it to the point that they believe, whether consciously or subconsciously, that everybody's different because of color. And it is so, just.
It's so funny to me. I'm like, man, look, you got one guy mad at me because I'm black, and this guy's mad at me because all this racial stuff. It's like, man, we both broke. And we sitting there fighting it out. And at the same time, you got other folks out here, who are doing all right. They don't care nothing about that. They don't care about whatever. They're screwing you over just like they're screwing me over. So
we're all sitting here going, how much was that stimulus check? What? $600? What? They're only giving us $600 of our money back.
Of our money, right. Yeah, what do you mean $600 of my money, man? It's my money, bro.
Hook me up.
Right.
Now that's a time when it's good to have a lot of kids. It actually pays off.
Yeah, I ain't lying, man. I tell you what, when that first round was coming, I said, Dave, I haven't been trying to have number 5, but if you're ready, I'm ready.
That's right. Let's go. It's a nice little tax write-off, too.
Yeah, it is, man. Yeah, it is, yo. That's a blessing, man.
Man, oh, man. Time has flew by. So, do you have, you guys have anything major coming up or on Tru-ID or?
Yeah, man. So for the last couple of months, I've just found myself, kind of guesting a lot of different shows. But in the background, I've been putting some things together. I've got some new material coming out on my YouTube channel, Tru-ID Apologetics on YouTube. That's Tru-ID Apologetics on YouTube. And I'm looking at bringing back the Tru-ID podcast. I'd gotten away from it earlier this year. So I'm looking at relaunching that in 2021. Really, so I can have more conversations like this. I mean, there are pros and cons to doing like the short videos on YouTube and stuff, and they can be effective in a way. But I feel like this is kind of more my bag, just like really taking my time and breaking down stuff. So I'm bringing the podcast back, and actually, God has been good, man. Over the last, for the last 6 months, in the background, I've been working on contributing to a book that's going to be coming out in April 2021. It's called Urban Apologetics. And it's actually available for pre-order right now, edited by Eric Mason. It's got a number of great contributors, published by Zondervan,
Oh, and wow. So the publisher, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I contributed a chapter on so-called Black atheism. So pretty much like atheism as, generally expressed, if you will, in the African-American context. And so I contributed a chapter on that, and also a frequently asked questions chapter also I did. So that's coming out in April 2021. It's already available on Amazon.com. So excited about that. And I've finally decided to go back and get my doctorate, and so.
Oh, wow. Good job.
Yeah, I've been working on a particular argument. Actually, a kind of a cluster of arguments, if you will. and I believe it'll end up being a pretty good dissertation. So I've been encouraged by Tim Stratton, to go and get that done, and I decided I'm gonna go ahead and get it, man. So hopefully by the end of January, man, I will have my proposal finished, and I'll be getting ready to do something, man.
Yeah, I can say I know another doctor. So
yeah, I hope so, man. Yeah, that's what I want to do, because we got some training opportunities coming down the pike through Tru-ID Apologetics Ministries. We want to have webinars and sponsor events and things that. So I just want to kind of add a little more weight to what it is that we do, man. So just kind of do my part, man. So yeah, that's kind of what I got going on, man. Got a couple irons in the fire. Yeah,
I heard that. Yeah, I meant to get your information into the tag here for it, but I was actually in Oklahoma City about 4.5 hours ago, and it's 4 hours away from me. So I was.
Wow, you weren't playing. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta get home. Yeah, they scheduled me a job out of state, on the one day that I was going to get. Yeah, so I don't have the nice little frame around it and all this stuff that I had.
It's all good.
I had some sound bites, and all this, and it's like. Adam's just going to get the cold treatment. He's going to get the basic.
Cool, man. I'm glad to be here, bro. I'm glad. I'm honored to be your first guest, man. And I like your vibe, man. I mean, it's very conversational. And actually, it's pretty cool because I got a chance to talk about some things I don't normally get a chance to talk about. So that's a testament to you as an interviewer, man.
I appreciate it, man. Absolutely. Yeah, this is, I mean, I said it was going to be chill, but, we kind of got some deep topics. But I just
a little bit. Yeah.
I like the natural conversation, man. It's, I like to hear other people's side, and some things we don't get to talk about every day because of the people that were around and things like that.
Yeah, very true. Very
true, absolutely, man. I'm honored that you actually came on. So I mean, it's kind of a big deal, So
man,
you're getting up there. You're getting up there now. Come on.
I'm trying. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll have my own show, and I won't be a doctor, but I'll be the man.
I'd love to have you on the Tru-ID, man. I mean,
absolutely, anytime,
man. I would love for you to come on, man, and have a good time.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's philosophy of religion has just been. I love it. I mean, it's I like the more modal logic.
Ontological argument. Okay.
Yeah, I like Josh Rasmussen's contingency argument.
Sure. Yeah, I probably got. Let me see. Reason Leads to God. I got that book. I think somewhere in here right now. As a matter of fact,
I just listened. I just listened to that earlier on audiobook. It was. Yeah. While I was working, I'd forgotten that being in the group with all these guys, I forget that there's published content. Because I think that I've, kind of heard it all there. And then I remember, hey, there's a whole book's worth of stuff there that I didn't get to, to read. So,
I haven't shared this actually. You can give you some exclusive content. Now, I haven't shared this prior to till now, but I feel comfortable sharing it because, the book is about to come out. We're in like the final stage. But like I talked about, I contributed a chapter on Black atheism. Now, what's interesting is that I mean, it really was the Lord. I months ago, I stumbled across an 17th century Ethiopian philosopher by the name of Zera Yacob. And Zera Yacob, in one of his works called the Hatada, or actually, I think it's the only one that we have extant, but called the Hatada, he actually forwards a version of the cosmological argument. Wow. And he couples it with the argument from reason and an argument for kind of like a teleological argument. He kind of weaves them together into this discourse, a really brief discourse on evidence for God's existence. And so I, like I said, I just kind of stumbled across it, quite frankly, and I kind of built upon it, and I fused it with some of Josh Rasmussen's stuff to, put forth the contingency argument in my chapter on Black atheism. So I kind of weaved together this African philosopher with Josh Rasmussen to, make a case for God's existence. And I brought in the argument from reason. I cited Josh Rasmussen and so forth. So I think it'll be pretty interesting, man.
That's awesome, man. I'm going to check that out.
Now. Yeah, I can send you the chapter, actually.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome.
Scenes,
Yeah, that's anytime I'm, talking to any of my not so pasty friends, I'll tell, and I hear about, Christianity's white man's religion and stuff like that. I'm like, you do know that the Ethiopian church is one of the oldest churches around, it's
absolutely. I mean, I could go on and on about that, man. And I mean, we're facing that a lot in our community now, and there's just so much evidence to the contrary. And we could do a whole show on that, quite frankly.
Absolutely. Hey, man, I'd love to have you back.
Yeah, man. I mean, just for the sake of, I think really just not, the African American community, but just the church in general. There's so much history that needs to be reclaimed, like Azariah Yaakov, and there's others I can name as well. Anton Amo, I'm thinking about, and there's a number of different African philosophers who have a Christian bent to them that we can really harness their work and make a case for the gospel today. So we got a lot of work to do, man.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to stay in the field and get it done.
Man, I heard that. Yeah, it's a lot of people don't realize the deep intellectual history of Christianity on the continent of Africa. Period. I mean, it's so there's some great thinkers. And
St. Augustine. I mean, obviously, he's going to be. He was from seems to be from an indigenous people group in Africa. He was. His mother seems to have been a Berber, and they know that based upon her name is Monica. And so, Augustine. We could talk about Tertullian. Every time you open your Bible and you see Old Testament and New Testament, that was coined by Tertullian. The term Trinity was seems to be coined by Tertullian. At least it's attributed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The term Trinity. He was a lawyer, and he used the term Trinitas, in his defense of, I guess you'd call it like a pre-Nicene Trinitarian articulation of the Godhead. I can put it that way. And actually, the Council of Nicaea relied upon his works in part as they were, drafting the Nicene Creed. But certainly the term Trinity, is traced back to his work. We use the term Trinitas to describe, the Godhead. So I mean, there's all sorts of guys. Cyprian, we could talk about
Cyprian. It's
there's a whole list of guys, man.
I'm going back. I'm going back through the resurrection. It's been a while since I visited it. And there's been some new writers on it and stuff. So it's fascinating.
Sure.
I just like I said, man, I was mesmerized by Christ's teachings, and it's the man himself is just. And that's what I try to get, a lot of, atheists, who's newer atheists coming up in it is, you can be mad at the religion and the church, but you can't be mad at Jesus. I mean, he was one of the greatest philosophers, ethicists, if there was. I mean, he's
sure.
There's some great value to learn there.
Powerful stuff. Yeah, very powerful.
So, man, I am so happy that you came on my show.
Yeah, man, I had a blast, bro. Glad to be here, man.
It's fantastic, and you're definitely going to have to come back if I have to drag you kicking and screaming. So.
Oh no, you won't have to. I got you, bro. You tell me when to be here, I'll be here. I got you, Doc. I got you, man.
Absolutely,
I love it, man. Love what you're doing here, man.
Yeah, thank you, boss. Appreciate everybody that was watching. Check out Adam Coleman at Tru-ID Apologetics on YouTube. He's got podcasts everywhere. So Apple, Google, all of them. So. He's on Facebook if you want to see his pretty face with his family. So.
Yeah. Hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Scott Lane 7 on Twitter, Instagram. I'm kind of lazy with Instagram and Twitter, but I'm there. And
I was going to tag you on the Instagram. I was like, he ain't been on there in a while. So
I'm whack on Instagram. I'm working on it.
There's just too many of them, man. It's hard to keep up.
It's hard to keep up. Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
Be blessed, brother, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, you as well, man. Appreciate you for having me, though.
All right. No problem, boss.